All right,
All right, we
let's
are
do it.
live. Good morning, Jake. It's a steady 5:59 a.m. here in Sydney, Australia, as the trades have been cooking overnight. Good
Cheers.
morning, mate. Welcome to everyone in the chat who's joining us. Jake, how you doing, buddy?
Considering it's 5:59 a.m., feeling great. Feeling great.
Could be worse.
Look, this is. I honestly couldn't really sleep last night. Anyway, like I was just like half an hour intervals and was just ready just to get on Twitter all day, all night long. But I forced myself to get an extra couple hours of sleep.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. My body wakes myself up every 30 to 60 minutes just to check the tweets, check Celtics Reddit to
Yeah.
see what's going on. A quick summary of what we're going to get into today. Obviously, the trade deadline. Just to introduce the format to you, we've created this custom tweet deck with all your newsbreakers and NBA insiders, which we're going to be following along very, very closely. And you can see this is sort of updating itself every minute or two now with new trades coming in. We've had some spicy ones, but to stick with the
Yeah.
Celtics, Jake, Mike the Moose, Muscala for Justin Jackson, 2 second-round picks. Mike Muscala comes in as
Let's
a
go.
39% shooter from three on 3.3 attempts this year. He comes in, of course, into the Celtics TPE, which is now done and dusted. Let's start with that. What are your thoughts on Mike Muscala coming in for the C's?
The Moose Dog. Let's go.
Big Moose.
Um, the Moose. Look, we saw literally last night how valuable a big man that can shoot is against the Sixers. Just for that alone, it's a great move. Like if Blake Griffin's knocking down 5 threes against the Sixers, Mike Muscala, dude, he's been like 40% for a long, 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 long time on high volume. Like per 36, he's shooting like 8.2 threes a game. And I've watched a fair bit of Thunder this year just because Josh Giddey's on the team, and so I trying to watch my Aussies a fair bit.
Mhm.
He's really solid and veteran presence. I think a good way to kind of test the waters of how good a trade is when you dive into the opposite fan base. Like when Derek White got traded, there was just this outpouring of support for D White. Like honestly, it felt like he had died, and they were having a eulogy for how much they loved him. A lot of Thunder fans are pretty upset to be losing Muscala and hoping that it's like part of a bigger move. Um, from a few different Twitter people, like Alex Hoops, who's become like an honorary Thunder fan,
Mhm.
doesn't really understand the move for OKC and loves it for the Celtics. Um, we're just guys. There's some really smart people on the internet today being like, he's like a solid pickup and fits into this rotation really nicely.
Yeah, hopefully this particular stream is interesting to viewers because we're like literally out of bed just digesting everything that's just happened, literally. So I don't quite understand the move from the Thunder's perspective either, other than they get a couple of second-round picks and they're just hoarding assets
Yeah.
from that perspective. But yeah, on Celtics Reddit, like someone jumped in basically saying like, please take care of my boy, like, or just completely devastated that they've lost him.
Yes.
And then another stat was posted. This is by Nikias Duncan. Never forget the shy Muscala pick and roll, which during their time together generated more points per possession than the following pairings: Trey and Collins, Trey Young and Clint Capella, CP3 and DeAndre Ayton, Conley and Gobert, LeBron and AD, Harden and Claxton, Ja and Jonas Valanciunas. The list goes on. Suffice to
Wow.
say, Muscala as the roll man, or I suppose more so the pop man in a pick and pop
Yeah.
action, is quite deadly. And then you consider the ball handling, pass first, point guard personnel that we have on our team. That's a spicy addition. Brad's done it again.
Brad, Celtics blog tweeted it like Brad is the definition of him like living out his self and his dreams. Like how many mic'd up segments did we get on national TV games where it's like, just hit signals, guys. Don't try and hit home runs. This is like the definition of just hitting a single on a guy that fits the team perfectly. Jason Tatum and Al Horford pick and pops have been killing teams since Al Horford was on the Celtics. Even Kyrie Horford pick and pops, and Muscala is a better shooter than Al Horford. Oh, well, maybe not this year because Al Horford's shooting like Reggie Miller
Incredibly.
this year. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's absolutely absurd. So you add Muscala to a team that has kind of been struggling with shooting lately. The amount of space that Muscala could open up on offense, um, we've been talking about some of these like lineups that have just kind of been getting stuck in the mud. Having a dude that can just pop and open up space and knock down a three um, is so valuable, especially when we're talking about soaking up regular season minutes.
Just adding another shooter as well.
Yeah.
It's a simple take, but we've had some long stretches of drought when it comes to, shooting from beyond the arc, and to add another competent shooter who can, again, space the floor while, give room for the Jays to get to the bucket and give them a kick out option as well is a huge addition to our personnel. And especially when you consider, he's knocking Justin Jackson off the bench lineup there. Jake, any parting words or thoughts for JJ as he heads out the door?
Wow. I believed for a moment there in Summer League. I got to be honest. 6'7", lottery pick. He was traded for Harrison Barnes at one point.
That's right, lottery
people,
pick. Wow.
People thought he was good. So why could he not be good for us? He is awful. He was terrible. Did nothing. The lineup stuff, like, the fact that Horford now can, play a bit of 4, play a bit of 5. I was seeing that Muscala can, put him at the 5, Horford at the 4. Your front court of shooting, like these Tatum and the bench lineups. Now that freaking House Money's back in a big way, you've got, Tatum in the bench lineups, Tatum, Hauser, Horford, Muscala, and Brogger, the Brog Dog. That's a lot of shooting.
Yep.
And so I love it.
And then we had a comment here from Z Gamer in the chat, like Muscala presumably plays over Luke Cornett, right? Like his floor spacing would be more valuable on paper, at least. I think it almost comes down to a situational thing. Like maybe by default, Muscala plays a little bit more in terms of what he gives the offense. I think Cornett still gets a little bit of run. Obviously not as much of what we've been used to, but in certain situations, in certain game scenarios, I think Cornett's still more valuable than Mike Muscala. Particularly, it seems weird to say about Luke Cornett, but defensively.
Yeah, look, Cornett's probably can still get some run. Horford's not going to play back-to-backs. I mean, bloody Rob Williams could not be on a more bubble wrap program. It feels like he could have definitely played last night. Like even if it's a little, he's like got a little boo-boo not playing. That's where we're at with Rob Williams right now. So to bring in a guy that can actually play, and he played 43 games for the Thunder this year, who are good, by the way, and playing like 14 minutes a game. I've pulled up, like, I haven't had a chance to compare these stats to like Luke Cornett, but pulled this from Twitter today. Oh, actually, if you can pull your tweet deck down and I can pull up this on top. I got some good like Muscala interior defense stats. So like you can see his rim deterrence, above average, percentage of rim shots contested. Like these are some pretty serious stats. Post defense, screener rim defense. So from what I'm seeing online, and I've got these as well from I forget the name on Twitter, and then these from Max Lizette as well, Mike Muscala. Look at his isolation possessions. Only 22 isolation possessions defended, but 98 percentile is 0.455 points per possession in isolation. Very good as the defending the pick and roll. And we've been talking about that recently, right? Is our pick and roll defense has been pretty questionable. So you bring in a guy that's, solid enough in the pick and roll. Like the Hornets game, next game up, like very helpful time for Mike Muscala just to come in, pick and pop with Mason Plumlee. And yeah, I think he can kind of he's 6'11". We talk about dimensions. Let me tell you.
One of us does.
One of us talks about dimensions. Look, I'm not a Ben dimension guy, but my phone, anytime I type in anyone's name, the first thing that comes up is just height and weight.
It's important.
6'11". As someone who's not 6'11", that's really tall. That's going to get defensive rebounding. Will become a good defensive rebounding team. He adds to that. Look, I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself about how excited I am, but it's just makes sense. Like it's not, you lose Justin Jackson and 2 second-round picks, and you bring in a guy that can kind of juice the offense and play solid defense. Like what's the downside?
It's a no-brainer. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are some really promising insights there, Jake, particularly around how not terrible he is offensively. I think, you might just a lot of people might make the assumption based on his apparent dimensions and general whiteness that he might be a poor and slow defender, but clearly he's not bad. You've got to imagine Brad's completely aware of that. Landon Lakes in the chat, Unreal Green Screen. Ben, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm in my office here in the Outback Center. I got the phone behind me, ready to make some calls, take some calls. We're all about the trade deadline. Jake, our rivals have made some moves today. I'm just going to bring up my little list here. So, where is it? Forgive me, it's very early. So the Bucks acquired Jay Crowder for like $1 million second-round picks.
Dude, what the hell?
And some change. George Hill, Jordan Nwora. And then the Sixers got our guy, Jalen McDaniels, for Thibault and a second-round pick. So Aussie, Thibault on the move. Jalen McDaniels, potential Jay defender, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum defender, is heading to Philly. Of those two trades, which is sort of the most alarming to you from the Celtics' success perspective?
Okay, where to begin? I think I'll start with McDaniels because I think he's who I liked more, but he is a definition of green-colored glasses, altering our perception of what kind of player he is. Like, he's played very well against the Celtics, especially this season. What did he go? 6 for 8 for 3 in one game. He's shooting 32% from 3 this year. 34% career 3-point shooter on like pretty average volume, like not nearly the offensive player that he probably feels like when the Celtics play him. And defensively, I think Thibault is actually a pretty, a much better defender than McDaniels. I think it's a good move for Philly just because you actually give Philly like a two-way player. I think Philly's biggest issue is they have so many one-way guys. Tucker doesn't play offense. Thibault doesn't play offense. Niang can't play defense. Harden can't play defense. So to bring in a guy that can actually play both ends, kind of a solid deal for them. I don't think it's a real issue. I mean, God, we'll probably get to the Philly game at some point, but like Jalen McDaniels is not saving them against the Celtics, whatever happens to them when they play us. The price of Nwora for Crowder, crazy.
They must just obviously. This is a selfish take, but they must just see the Celtics and I guess Philly as such threats that they really needed to load up on that wing position, no matter what. Hence, paying the ultimate price. The ultimate price is an inevitable loss to the Celtics in the playoffs, which they will suffer. But in the meantime, the ultimate price is giving up like every second round pick ever, and then a bunch of additional fairly useful assets. I think we can probably send George Hill off in terms of that classification. As we welcome in Will Weir from the Green with Envy podcast.
Let's go!
What is up, fellas?
Our neighbor on the Celtics blog feed. Will Weir, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for
I'm doing good, man. So, Greg and I were recording last night, and we thought things got a little bit crazy with a couple of trades, and then we literally finished the podcast, and then immediately heard Jalen broke his face. And so then we had to go back, record an opening, because we had hinted at it and then talked about all these different things. And then, a few hours later, Kevin Durant, and now it's just like, everyone was kind of intaking the Kevin Durant info this morning. Mm-hmm. And then there was like 1 or 2 small trades. I think Muscala was one of them for the Celtics. And then the floodgates have just opened basically since then. And now I feel like what is the deal with second rounders today? Second rounders are just going everywhere. Like, I already don't understand the value of second rounders, but today has completely thrown it out of whack. I think everybody just ran out of first round picks to trade with all of these massive 3 picks here, 4 picks here for Gobert, Murray, whatever else. So everyone's just got seconds left. Like, I don't know how else to explain it.
It's a really good point. Yeah. Like, like literally as we're speaking, right? The Hawks sending 5 second round picks to the Warriors for Sadiq Bey. Like, what that's so many second round picks. What we know for sure is that second round picks matter. So anytime someone's like, oh, whatever, second round pick, look at how many deals today are getting done for 2 second round picks. Like, they definitely matter. It feels like 5 is a lot, but again, the Bucks, as you said, they don't have anything else to trade.
The 5 second round picks, my buddy texted me, I can't even take credit for it. It sounds like a trade you make in 2K when you're trying to do a season or something, and you're like, I don't really want to give up anything because I'm only playing this as like a fake season, so I don't care. So here's like 5 second round picks, and let me go get somebody. Now it's happened twice And then there's 3
Yeah.
picks for Thomas Bryant. You know, I'm looking here. I see Eric Gordon's on the move back to the Clippers. It looks, this is just madness today.
Luke Kennard's just been announced as well. I'm glad we've got this custom tweet deck on screen, because just sitting here staring at it alone is entertaining enough. But,
yeah, this is perfect, guys.
It is the fuck them picks mentality, and as I take a timestamp to edit that out of the Celtics podcast. Yeah, it's very 2K centric, but you know, talking of the value of second round picks, they seem to be apparently at an all time low. But guys like Malcolm Brogdon, a second round pick who went on to win Rookie of the Year, Nikola Jokic, obviously notable MVP and second round pick. Like, there's a lot of value if you know what you're doing.
Draymond Green, Manu, Isaiah Thomas was the last pick. Like,
future Celtics legend Johan Begaron, second round pick.
Exactly. So to give up 5 of those of potential, you know, nuggets of drafting glory for a stab at Jay Crowder just seems wild. But obviously they're desperate to sort of get some wing defenders on the roster to throw at the Jays in the playoffs, which is an inevitable matchup, it seems.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, go ahead, Jake.
I was just going to say, it's annoying they didn't have to give up Grayson Allen, because I think like that is someone that actually plays with him. But yeah, they've been scarred by what Jaylen Brown did to Grayson Allen in that second round series. Crowder hasn't played in 8. When's the last time he actually played a basketball game?
Whenever when they lost Game 7.
Yeah, May.
Right? Game 7, that Game 7 disaster to the Mavs is the last time he's been on the court.
And like he hasn't been that good for a little while. Like, maybe they were watching the Heat bubble series against the Jays. Like, the Jays are a lot better since then. And Crowder's a couple years older. We now don't have Kemba Walker on one leg, Shemi Ojale spreading the floor, and Daniel Tice in the middle. We got the Moose Man.
The Moose Man. Yeah, we'll see how much time he gets in the actual post. I think the Celtics are pretty primed for some buyout candidate here. That's really from a Celtics perspective. What I'm looking for is I want to see who's the guy that's like, oh, that makes no sense, and they're gonna, you know, maybe cut a wing. Because I think now, especially with the Jaylen Brown injury, that became a much bigger need, you know, 12 hours ago or whatever it was, you know, since last night. And you know, like you said, Jay Crowder, like, it's really weird. He starts to become this overrated guy that once he gets so overrated, maybe then he becomes a little underrated. And so it's really hard, especially because he hasn't played in so long. But I do really think that's a good fit for the Bucks, just with the depth that they have now along the wing, and because he's one of those small forwards that can guard up a little bit. You know, he's kind of like a Grant Williams. Grant Williams, PJ Tucker. That's the mold of, you know, can play a little bit on the wing, but can also play up a little bit. But I think, honestly, from a Celtics perspective, the deal that really caught my eye was Philly getting Jalen McDaniels. I thought that was a really good move. We saw the last time the Celtics and Hornets played, McDaniels kind of, you know, he kind of gave Tatum and Brown a little bit of trouble. I mean, I don't want to act like he's going to shut them down or anything, but he's also not a zero offensively like Thibault. So you can play him now, you know, in that rotation with the Sixers. And so I think that was a pretty low key, interesting move for them.
It's funny because firstly, if you want an amazing watch the Rights Ricky Sanchez podcast from last night. That was unbelievable. Mike Levin was just talking about beating up Daryl Morey for the whole game, for the whole podcast, and how much he hates Montrezl Harrell. I was dying laughing. It was so much fun. But a couple of guys from the Ricky Sanchez and Sixers Twitter guys that I follow, this was a dodge the tax move as well. And a lot of guys like don't think that McDaniels is like kind of what they want. They need to back up big so badly. Like the non-Embiid minutes are awful. And I was saying before you hopped on, Will, but like, you know, McDaniels lit up the Celtics from 3, but you know, he's shooting 32% from 3 this year. Yeah. He's definitely a better offensive player than Thibault, because I'm actually so happy he's out of Philly. Like he's an Aussie dude, and he played really well for the Boomers in the Olympics. And as soon as he comes back into this Philly environment, it's like back to square one. And Philly with these development guys, you know, whether it's, you know, Ben Simmons, Shake Milton, like all these dudes, Isaiah Joe, you know, goes to a different team and all of a sudden is having a great season. Mm-hmm. I would not be surprised if Thibault now can actually get his career off the ground. So I'm like really happy that he's out of there. And I could totally see McDaniels going back the other way, because that seems to be what happens to like young players on Philly, is they just like forget how to shoot and become worse, which is lovely to see, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, look, we've got 42 minutes, I believe, until the deadline occurs. And while
Yeah.
I've easily got 42 minutes of anti-Sixers material, let's, I think you're absolutely right, Will and Jake, about the Sixers stance there and the, upcoming success of Thibault. But Jake Fisher, Keith Smith, both noting on Twitter here that the post-trade deadline NBA buyout / wave player market is going to be deep. We're seeing a lot of cost-saving moves that are being made, players traversing across various conferences, players absolutely getting waived. We've seen now that the Clippers are trading Patrick Beverley, who they must have
Wait,
acquired.
when did Beverly end up on the Clippers?
Exactly, yeah.
John Wall's back on the
flying.
Rockets.
Dude,
John Wall's back on the Rockets.
I almost cut you off earlier because I was starting to laugh out loud because I saw that John Wall ended up back on the Rockets.
Yeah, it's crazy
That's
right
too
now.
good.
We chose the right time to stream.
Yeah.
But I suppose the question that goes out to both of you, we'll start with you, Will, is, given what's happened today, given all these potential buyout candidates, do you expect the C's to make another move in the next 41 minutes, preferably for a wing? Or at this point, it seems, as much as I get excited and want to see a trade happen, it seems more likely that they will wait and pursue someone via the buyout market.
Yeah, I think it's the latter, man. I think this has become a pretty clear buyout market now that there's so much activity. Unless there was something, because I think at this point to get, and the other part of this, like I said, is the Jaylen Brown aspect. Like, we know he's going to miss some time, but it's sometime, the All-Star break is next week, so they're going to have a little bit of an extended break. So is he just out for the next 5-6 games, including that All-Star break, or is he out a month? So that makes it, and that's tough. They might not know that in the next hour, that we're on here. So it's really tough to figure out. But I do think at this point, unless there was a deal that, and it would have to be a relatively big deal for what the Celtics can do with, given their roster, and that would be a Gallo Peyton Pritchard combo, because the TPE was just used as part of the Muscala trade, right? So we're down to, you're gonna have to, if you're gonna get someone of substance, of meaning via trade, it's going to be Gallo, it's going to be Pritchard, some type of combo. Justin Jackson's gone. Blake Griffin's another salary you can throw in there if you're trying to get to 12 million or whatever. But I wouldn't expect that. I think at this point, it's now watching for, the Danny Greens of the world, who just got traded, and I don't even know which team he's on, but I know he got moved. He got moved to one of these teams that's being thrown around here, but Houston, he's likely a buyout. Yeah. But he's likely a buyout guy, right? So that's someone that you keep an eye on, and he just came back from injury, which is funny because I feel like there was so much talk of the Grizzlies loving him as a culture guy, or as a, to just have him around the team with all these young guys, and then he's gone. I mean, they got Luke Kennard back. It wasn't like they got nothing, but I think at this point, to answer your question, Ben, that's where we're at. I think it's, let's see what comes open on the market, which wing player are we going to be able to, because I think, and this has been pointed out, I think, by Keith a couple different times, is that the Celtics can go a little bit above and beyond in the buyout market than some other teams. So
DPE.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's like 3 million, 3.2 million.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, a big chip to play in the next couple of days. So I think that's the route we're headed, but I still think that means that, we got to keep an eye on what players are being moved where, to see who might just be available.
Yeah, I think that's the tricky part, is knowing which of these guys, knowing right now who the buyout guys are going to be. Patrick Beverley's just been traded to the Magic. Is he a buyout? Are they going to buy him out?
And for the record, I do not want Pat. I can't stand Patrick Beverley. I mean, I don't think he'd be here, but
I hate it. I hate him, but I'm talking myself into it. Regular season minutes, dude. As annoying as he is, that's kind of what they need, right? A guy that can just play defense on a bunch of different guys, knock down some threes, and bring that kind of grit and intensity. We'd probably like him more if he was on the Celtics. I have no doubt. It's everybody hates Marcus Smart. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It was like last year when the Magic traded for Gary Harris. Everybody was dying for Gary Harris. Obviously, they kept him. I think Gary Harris maybe a slightly, pretty similar tier player to Beverly, maybe better. It's just hard to know. Mo Bamba, that was a guy that been batted around for backup bigs for the Sixers. That's actually honestly something that I'm enjoying. But yeah, the buyout market seems to be the move. I'm kind of hoping we pull the Gallo for Jayshawn Tate. He's kind of my guy. I know he can't shoot, but he's honestly, Pritchard hasn't really shot this well. Jayshawn Tate's kind of like this year's version of Pritchard, but on steroids. He's 6'5", 6'6", and a hustle man, can get offensive rebounds, dive on the floor, defend a bunch of positions. Kind of the guy that they need, not the shooter that they want.
Mhm.
But yeah, so last name Tice in the chat here. Jay Rich and Terrence Ross.
Mr.
Yes.
Tice. Thank
Mr.
you.
Tice. Oh, sorry,
So-
Sir Tice.
Do you guys know, is there any issue with like if Josh Richardson gets bought out? Because this has been part of the,
I know, yeah.
the Pirtle rumors, and can Gallo go? Because I think I saw recently that Gallo could be traded, but he couldn't sign with the Spurs. Maybe it was the Hawks, because he did kind of get waived by the Hawks. So is there any issue if Richardson gets bought out from the Spurs that he can come to us, or does he have to get traded and then bought out?
Look at the tweet deck.
Oh,
right
wow,
now.
that's
the
perfect.
Spurs are trading Josh Richardson
No!
to the Pelicans. Damn it, he's gone. It's off the board.
Yeah, that feels like a stick. That feels like a landing spot more than it feels like.
Yeah, that's a good
off the
get for
question.
those guys, and very disappointing for all Celtics fans
Oh,
currently in the
that's
stream. Let's just take a moment to
That's
to
okay.
absorb that.
That's as long as he doesn't go to Philly or Milwaukee. Like,
Yes.
that's still that's good. Are we getting Daniel Tice again?
Oh,
Another
I'm-
Daniel Tice PF.
Shout out, Fongos. Welcome, sir.
Man,
We've got
I'm a
royalty
little,
on
I'm
the
a little
stream.
gutted by this Josh Richardson news. I had in the
Yeah,
back of my
that's tough.
mind that was, and Greg and
Maybe.
I went to the game in San Antonio a couple weeks ago and saw him in person, and really like what we
Nice.
saw.
Yeah, man, he's really
seconds.
He's
good.
incredible.
What is
4
the deal
second
with
round pick.
Yeah,
It's all anybody has. And like the Pelicans have a crap load of first round picks as well. So I don't know. That just seems to be I mean, like, obviously Richardson probably isn't worth a first round pick expiring, $12 million contract, but still a lot of second round picks.
I'm gonna need somebody to explain how these picked. Like, I just don't get how, like, the value of, like, the 5 go for Wiseman, 5 go for Crowder, 3 go for Thomas Bryant, now 4 go for Josh Richardson. And if you go back to even last night, that Josh Hart deal with the Knicks, if that first round pick, I forget what the protections are from the first round, but if it doesn't convey, those turn into 4 seconds. So I don't know what the hell it means.
Any chance we can trade with Devin Booker? Look, if we do Grant, Gallo, Pritchard, and 5 seconds, it might get it done. I think we'll get close. Like, because they don't really need him now. Overlapping skills, Durant, Booker. Like, huge. What's
Look, just on the second round picks thing, I do think there's a correlation with the value or lack thereof for second round picks and how wide open the league is. There's so much opportunity for so many teams who could potentially come out victorious in both conferences that we're seeing as a result second round picks just flying around all over the place with the chance just to acquire, a guy who can give us 12 minutes off the bench. Like, because it's going to be those little minute details that are the gap between a win and a 7-game series and a loss. So teams are scrambling to add value for this season in any way possible, jettisoning off second round picks, whatever it takes, just to give them a better chance across the field in this season. So I think that's why we're seeing a dip in value overall for second round picks, just because everyone's in with a chance.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. It is. I mean, it's wide open in their minds, I think, but it's a Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks world, and everyone else is playing for second.
Yeah,
like
I think it does feel. I mean, despite last night, I still hesitate to count out the Sixers. But last night is pretty damn.
Come on.
I don't know if I'm a believer, but it's. I mean, last night, I said this on the podcast yesterday. Last night is one of those games where I feel like because the Celtics were so disadvantaged, we're going to be able to look back to that game at any point in the postseason and say, hey, remember that night Philly, who was 22-6 in their last 28, was full strength at the guard, and we were missing 3 starters to start the game, 3.5 by the end of it, and we still won that game pretty soundly. I think we're going to be able to hang our hats. So, I don't believe in Philly. I don't know that I can write them off, but like you think about, so like the going back to what started this whole day, the Kevin Durant trade, it still blows my mind. The Nets are in 5th place, 10 games over 500, and a week ago had two all-star starters, and now
they were the 2 seed, like very recently. Things
just changed so quickly. But so I think ultimately, I think right now it is kind of looking like an arms race between the Bucks and the Celtics. But, I mean, we still got a little bit of time left here. I think, I don't know if Cleveland can go swing a move for like what happened to OG? OG was the big name that we thought was gonna get moved today. Nothing's happened there. Like if OG ends up in Cleveland, like that's a scary team. I don't know that I would say I would pick them over us by any means.
They can't get OG. If
I don't
OG's
think
moving,
they can. I don't think they can either. But
okay, well, let me ask you this: would you rather play the Sixers or the Cavs? Because I actually think the Sixers. We do to the Sixers what the Warriors have done to us in the past few, or whatever, for whatever reason, their minds turn to mush and they play like idiots, and much worse than they usually do. And this for the Celtics goes back to that, 2017-18 series where, the shoot a three, you coward Ben Simmons series, basically. That's where it all started. That's what we do. But I could see Philly beating Milwaukee. Like they always play them tough. But like, personally, I'd rather play Philly than Cleveland.
So I see what you're saying. I would still choose Cleveland over Philly because Embiid is still so great in my mind most nights that like he's due for a moment in the playoffs. And maybe it's not with Philly. Maybe it's down the line. It's not with he's overdue. Exactly. And so
James Harden.
I'm kind of past. I'm kind of past James Harden having that moment. But it took Chris Paul until a couple years ago to get to the finals, right? So kind of never say never to a certain degree, and he's changing the way he plays. Like he's more of a distributor than a scorer, even though he still has that in his bag a little bit. So I think I would still lean Cavs just because they're so young. Like they're really like their opportunity is going to be as Mobley continues to increase, like as his development goes, they'll be even scarier. And I do think that like that's a team though for Cleveland. If we don't have Rob and Al at full strength, that team does worry me a little bit because of their size. Like I do think that could be a problem that we see, but I would lean Cleveland. I understand the reasonings behind Philly and the dominance that we've had over them, in this last stretch. But I think I would still lean Cleveland slightly just because Embiid is, he's going to be, out of those two teams, he's clearly the best player between those two teams.
Now we're seeing some more intel appear on our tweet deck here, our wonderful custom tweet deck built by
you've done truly. So well. What a bloody legend of a producer.
Basically a curated list of newsbreakers and insiders, and Chris Haynes with an interesting one. This falls in line with our Schadenfreude report that Thomas Bryant actually requested a trade from the Lakers after his minutes diminished once Anthony Davis returned. The hubris. Like
what is going on at the moment?
You know what the real reason was? He was upset LeBron didn't give him the ball. He was open in the post. He had Shea sealed.
Yeah,
it was a selfish play by LeBron, if we're being honest. It was very selfish.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. Make the right play, LeBron. Get your teammates involved.
Quickly, Jake. I got to drop for 15 minutes. I got to get my 2-year-old out of bed, and I'll be right back.
Perfect. Well, perfect. This is great that Will has jumped on.
There we go.
What is going on with role players, young players asking for trades and more minutes? Like Bones Highland got traded today.
Yep.
And okay, cool, dude. You're on like the number one seed in the West and you're complaining about your minutes. Like this is ridiculous. Even like the little report about Grant. I'm not sure. Maybe that was like I don't know what that is.
I mean, the worst one was Ferdinand Korkmaz on the Sixers. That's the worst.
Second trade demand.
Yeah,
he's done.
I mean, everyone's just requesting a trade these days. Like, I don't know what to make of it. Like, it's one thing when Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving do it, but when I don't know if Jay Crowder's a trendsetter that now Thomas Bryant's done it, Ferdinand Korkmaz has done it. I think there was a famous one from a couple years ago. Maybe Marquise Chris, I think, tried to ask for a trade at one point, and when guys do that, it's kind of like, listen, there's a hierarchy to this. Like, you got to be of a certain status to request a trade. But a lot of these guys are getting their requests met in one form or another. So I don't think it's necessarily going to deter other, smaller players from maybe asking for it. But it is a little ridiculous.
I saw Fongo's in the chat here. Can we get Shemi Ojale back in the back? How do you feel about Shemi?
It's funny. So Shemi, I do like Shemi, but he's always been for our podcast over on Green with Envy. He's always been kind of a drive-by shooting waiting to happen. Just as far as just these little side comments, it's always like, well, at least it's not Shemi. And even though he wasn't involved, and like I go back to probably 2 3 years ago. I don't know who it was. Somebody made a compilation video where people were saying that Jason Tatum wasn't a creator or a distributor.
Yeah.
And there was like a 5-minute long video of him passing to Semi Ojeleye on open threes, of him just missing open threes. And I was like, oh, that is a rough look for our guy. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's Semi. I really like that. I thought Semi out of college was going to be a steal once he get back to second round picks. I thought he was going to be a steal.
Everybody liked him.
Of a second round pick. You know who
Bro.
loved him was Brad Stevens. Every time he played
Yes.
the Bucks, he was immediately in the starting lineup to try to take on Giannis.
That year where it was like Hayward coming back from injury, Kyrie coming back from injury in the summer league, Shemi was like showing some playmaking stuff. I was like, you know, everybody's talking about Kyrie and Hayward coming back. Shemi Ojeleye, X Factor, coming in, and yeah, no, that's not happening. So I do another podcast with a couple other dudes, and we do the whole NBA, and he's one of the guys is like into his Euro League, and literally like a couple weeks ago he was like Shemi Ojeleye sighting because he was watching freaking Virtus Bologna. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Yeah, I don't know how you pronounce, but I know Adam Taylor interviewed him a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago.
That's
and
awesome.
It was interesting getting to hear his perspective about, you know, his trip in the NBA, and I hope he makes it back. I don't think the Celtics are the place for it, but I hope he makes it back.
Yeah, because I asked Josh when he was watching the game, can Semi dribble now? Like, can he actually put the ball on the floor? And he's like, he cannot. Still can't dribble. Still.
Well, do you remember I think
like
the last year he was on the Celtics, he had like a 3-game stretch where he just learned how to do a Euro step on a closeout, and we all lost our minds collectively. Like, oh my God, it's finally happening. And it was like, oh no, he learned that one move and he has no counter, and he can only do it, you know, semi frequently. Like it's not exactly yes, I mean made a lot. But yeah, so it's I don't know if Semi's gonna be the answer anytime soon.
Well, I mean, Grant has become what we always hoped Shemi would be, right? And
exactly.
And we'll probably dig into the Philly game a bit later, but like I got apologies to Grant. I've been kind of like, I'm kind of okay with throwing him in a trade with Gallo and Pritchard. I was kind of on the Kelly Olynyk bandwagon, bring him in, send him out for Kelly, just because the offense has been such an issue for the past like 6 to 8 weeks. And I think Kelly, you know, pretty elite offensive player. But Grant Williams, man, last night, what a freaking game. Grant Williams, deep threes. Like Embiid got his numbers last night, but Grant played incredible defense. Great
was
game.
Amazing. We led the podcast with that last night. This was a bad day for the trade Grant crowd. Or last night was a bad night for the trade Grant crowd. And listen, he's had his struggles over the last, you know, 2-3 weeks, whatever it's been. Like it's not like I wouldn't deny that he's had his struggles, but I think last night, and you know, obviously Kevin Durant's no longer in the conference, but when you were looking at what the Celtics road is to the finals, you go through Embiid, you go through Giannis. It was Durant until a night ago. We talked about the Cavs have their bigs, you know, Julius Randle, even Bam Adebayo. Like you kind of like, you know, the way I've always talked about it before is that you have certain guys that you can label as unicorns. And that's kind of the Giannis, the Jokic, another guy who, if we get to the finals, Grant, you know, Joker needs a Batman.
Gotta have Batman, dude.
Gotta have Batman. And so like you got all these guys that you can label as, you know, quote unquote unicorns. So the way I've always described it is like the Celtics don't have a unicorn in that sense, but they've got a stable of horses that can match up with these unicorns, that can be versatile, that can shapeshift what they are. Because when you have Rob, when you have Al, when you have Grant, they're all guys that can throw different looks at these unicorn type guys and do it in different ways. And that's kind of what you need, because if those guys see one look long enough, they're going to figure it out, right? So you got to be physical, you got to be long, you're going to have to send doubles at different times in different ways for some of these guys. And so I think the versatility that Grant allows you, because he's stout, he's thick with a couple of C's, right? Like he can actually take some of that physicality, which is not Rob's strong suit. Rob's going to help you in other ways.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where, you know, Grant's value is going to be. And so even if he has a good playoffs to a great playoffs, and he ends up being outside of the Celtics pay range at the end of the season, I think that's a gamble you got to take, because I think he's too valuable to what this team is now. That I don't think you're going to get anything back that's going to be, you know, the equivalent of replacing that. So I think it's worth the gamble for the Celtics to keep him this year and let the chips fall where they may come in the offseason.
Look, if we get the Grant that we saw last night and the Grant that we saw in the playoffs, that's a player you desperately want to keep on your roster. That's the guy that I was comfortable paying mid-teens money, and the guy, a guy that was looking to expand his offensive bag coming into this season. I think he just kind of lost confidence on where he was supposed to pick his spots. Yeah, I think you're right. We don't have a unicorns, but we got centaurs, we got minotaurs, mermaids. Like we got all kinds of mythical creatures on this roster that can match up with the jokers of the world. Yeah, and if you're in the chat right now, let us know. Like we're kind of just jumping around here. Like if there's anything we want to touch on. Like I don't think we got your thoughts on the Muscala deal, Will. Like how we feeling?
I mean, honestly, like it kind of felt like a budget Kelly Olynyk move.
Yes,
like
cool.
it's just a lower rent version of Kelly Olynyk. I mean, I think the biggest difference, if you got Kelly can play playoff minutes. I'm not sold that Muscala is going to play any type of real role come playoff time. But I do think on the nights where you're looking to save, Rob from some of these, continued ankle tweaks or whatever, bodily tweaks that seem to continue to pop up
bubble
here
wrap
and there.
Rob, man. Like
it's tough.
ridiculous.
And so you want to save some of that, right? And so then Al's just not playing back to backs. He's getting older. He showed up, I think it was yesterday. He showed up and just his knee was, a little bit creaky. He's 36. He's one of the few guys that's older than us that's still in the league. And so so I think having Muscala just adds
Plum Dog millionaire.
What do we got
here?
To the Clippers.
But
that's
we got
for them.
We got the Moose though, so
we got the Moose. We'll be. And here's the thing. I think this is another going back to last night's game against the Sixers. Like I think the minutes you got from we just talked about Grant, but the minutes you got from Luke and Blake, like, and obviously it's probably going to be pretty rare that you get 5 3-pointers from Blake again.
But not rare to get 5 3-pointers from Muscala. Like this dude,
that could happen.
Shoot it. Like he's been shooting 40+% for years on legit volume, and he's only 31. Like mate, this is what you do when you trade for a player. We're checking ages, we're checking heights, we're checking weights, we're checking 3-point percentage,
nicknames on Basketball Reference.
Exactly.
We gotta get all of it in here. Oh, Reggie Jackson is going to Charlotte as well.
That's a buyout
in
guy,
that deal.
Surely.
That's interesting. That's an interesting one. They really kind of fell out of love. It sounded like with Reggie.
He's
Jackson
been bad this year
as of late. But going back to the Celtics just for a second, like. Yeah, I think with Muscala, like I just think he's going to add to once again that stable of being able to, because ultimately with that group of bigs, it's going to matter big time if Robin and Al are there. If one of them isn't there, you're going to feel it. And so I think this is about how do we get to the end of this regular season with keeping them as healthy as we possibly can. And, Muscala's got a team option. So once again, circling back to if Grant were to leave, now you theoretically have Danilo and Muscala who could be back in the fold. And so that helps offset that loss a little bit.
We have so many white guys on the team. Now we added Muscala. We bring back Gallo next year. That's a lot of shooting. And again, another 6'11" dude. Yeah, we're going to see. We got 19 minutes left here to see what happens. Carl, I know you said you want to know who the mermaid is. Look, off the top of my head, I think it has to be Rob, just because the siren song of what Rob can be. Like, and you want to crank those minutes up, but you can't. As soon as you crank the minutes up, we're getting knee soreness, hip soreness. But the idea of spending the rest of your life with a 35 minute per game Rob Williams is irresistible.
Probably not going to happen, but
exactly. You're going to drown, or Rob's going to be out of the league with injuries. I think that's going to have to be. We'll have to get that nickname added to Basketball Reference. I think is the mermaid. Yeah, thanks, Carl. I think we're on the same page here. But yeah, and then defensively, I pulled up some good stats like from a couple of guys on Twitter. Like defensively, Muscala's numbers are pretty solid. Like a couple of good.
I saw a lot of the on-off numbers of just him for the Thunder. Like all of their positive net ratings are lineups that have typically included Muscala, and when they're negative net ratings, typically he's off the court. I think he's only playing. I don't know if you still have it pulled up. I had it pulled up a minute ago. How many minutes he was actually playing?
He's playing like 15 a game
per game for them. Yeah, so it's not like he plays. It's not like he plays a ton, but he plays enough that like there is a sample there. So I do think
the Thunder are good, dude. The Thunder have been legit.
I love watching the Thunder.
Dude, oh my god,
that's the part that not everyone forgets about. But I mean, LeBron broke the record, but the Thunder actually, increased their lead towards getting into the play-in. Like that was a very important play-in game.
It was such a Lakers game. Like awesome. LeBron's having a good game, but the Thunder just won it wire to wire. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
even close. There was no surprise that the Lakers traded Westbrook. Like that was a microcosm of their whole season. Can you believe that they got all those dudes for a protected? It was a top 4 protected
It's
pick.
top 4 protected. Yeah, I mean, it's a hell
Like,
of a job by, I know Pelinka gets a lot of
that's so weird, Danny. What
gets a
the
lot of
hell?
criticism, but hey, here's the other thing though. For the
What the
Jazz,
hell?
like, but do you add that to everything they got from Cleveland and Minnesota?
I
Like,
don't know.
they're I mean, they have, if there's any team that has wiggle room to say, all right, just give us the pick, even if it's top 4 protected, it was Utah. Utah had the wiggle room to kind of do that. And if you look at their arsenal, they are locked and loaded. But I was a
Danny
little
Ainge is
surprised to
just-
see that it was that Ainge gave in on the top 4 protection. He feels like a top 1 protected
Yeah.
guy, maybe, or something. So top 4 does leave a significant enough, bit of wiggle room for that. But I do think for the Lakers, I have no idea what it's going to mean because they just got to actually get on the court and win some games. But like watching that, the game where LeBron broke the record the other night, and I went to the Lakers Celtics game when they were in Boston.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
LeBron's awesome. Like LeBron's still awesome. I don't know what
Dude,
was
I
going on
can't
with
believe-
AD the other night, but
Oh my! I mean,
that was
what
a
a
weird,
joke.
weird. I don't understand. I don't understand where his head was at for that game. So I know, like Greg and I were talking about this on the pod last night.
half
Like,
of the games.
I wonder if there was like some like weird personal off the court stuff
It
going
felt
on.
like it.
Because he was just so disengaged for a game that should have had like a really big atmosphere to it, that you're kind of locked and loaded and happy for your guy, and he was just pretty indifferent. But I think the biggest thing was just like they need more NBA talent and more NBA level talent that fits, because they just didn't work together at all, and I think they've at least accomplished that. So
Yeah, like
we'll
Malik
see what
Beasley,
happens.
dude. Like he's a wing that can he shoots like 8 threes a game on 40%. I'm surprised someone's not picking him up for a first rounder. Like Vanderbilt, he was one of the most talked about dudes in the lead up to the trade deadline. It's just really surprising, especially Danny, to trade them to the Lakers. Obviously,
Well, hey, he's no longer a Boston guy, so now
I
he's
guess.
now he can open up the open up the phone lines to the
I
to the
guess
Lakers.
so.
So
Yeah.
where do
Oh,
you
yeah,
think? Let's on that. I mean, it looks like
yeah.
Russell Westbrook's probably going to get bought out.
Sure,
And
yeah.
I've seen Clippers as a rumor, although they just have made a couple of moves, so we'll see where the dust settles with that. The other team that I saw floating around was Miami.
Well, because Kyle Lowry and them sound like they're done. Like there was a report that came out that was like, even if he's not traded, doesn't sound like he wants to play for the rest of the regular season. And honestly, he's been pretty washed anyway.
Yeah.
So, dude, the Heat are so impressive to me. Like they have no business being the 5-6 seed or like a competent playoff team. To me, when I look at their roster, like in a vacuum, outside of Bam and Jimmy, like I know that like some of these guys are solid. Like I'm not a hero guy. Like their whole roster is guys on big deals and dudes they found in the second round picks and unrestricted free agents and all that kind of stuff. It's the most impressive thing to me. Heat culture, whatever. But heat culture apparently couldn't save Kyle Lowry. But yeah, that would be perfect for the Celtics. I feel like Westbrook in any playoff setting is an advantage
for the
Celtics.
other team.
Yeah. Ben, you're back.
What have I missed? We've got 13 minutes till the deadline.
Yeah.
Brad's got multiple phones pressed against his face right now. The magic's happening. Have I missed anything at all?
Nothing huge, I don't think. But also,
I mean, Reggie Jackson's now on the Hornets. Mason Plumlee to the Clippers.
Yeah, Plum Dog Millionaire was obviously
big deal.
a guy. But we got the Moose Dog now. So
that's true.
We got the Brog Dog. We got the Moose Dog.
Really, the move of the deadline, I think, if you think about it. I mean, we've got all this Durant nonsense going on, but Moose Dog to the Celtics.
Yes.
You add a competent contributing player to clearly the best team in the league this year.
I will. Yeah.
Farley, Justin Jackson, but I'm feeling good. I mean, we'll talk about the Durant move, and Will and Greg talked about it on the Green with MV podcast last night. So make sure you go and subscribe and listen to that show if you haven't already. And there's obviously going to be more in-depth, detailed breakdowns from us, first of all, during the All-Star break, when we can take a moment to zoom out and look at some of these moves that
take
have
a
been made.
breath.
Absolutely. for now, I really will want to kind of remain focused on the Celtics and what impacts the Celtics, and the Suns bolstering their roster. We've already played them twice this year. Doesn't really have an effect on us. The Nets have some interesting wing depth, which maybe we can talk about. Do you think they'd be willing, Jake, to relinquish one of their many wings? Like, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, like Joe Harris and Royce O'Neal and Cam Johnson.
I mean, Cam Johnson is
Mikal
the
Bridges, and
Bridges.
I feel like we're missing some. I mean, Seth Curry's more of a guard, but he's in the mix there. Ben Simmons, I don't know if he's a wing, a point guard, or he's just a backup, I guess. I don't know.
I think he's a
I don't know what to
socialite.
label him as.
He's a socialite.
Young
He doesn't
socialite.
play basketball. I'm pretty. Mike Muscala is better than Ben Simmons. This is not a hot take. He in the game against the Suns where there's no Kyrie, there's no Durant. It's Cam Thomas taking 92 shots. They need someone else to do something, anything, and Ben Simmons takes 2 field goal attempts, 1 for 2 from the field. I've been talking about Ben Simmons for 5 years. It's infuriating. He was supposed to be.
Are you guys big Ben Simmons supporters? Being the Aussie connection.
Well, we tried so hard.
You want
we feel
to
only
be. You want to be, but
we tried so hard. The amount of excuses that were made by Australian basketball fans and Philadelphia 76ers fans for Ben Simmons over and over and over again was exhausting. I was always like pretty. It was obvious to me quite early. Honestly, that first playoff series, I was like, unless this dude fixes his mentals, like he's never going to be like a superstar in this league. And it could not have gone more the other way around. Mike Muscala is going to help a contender exponentially more than Ben Simmons is helping a contender. Before we even think about that, Ben Simmons is literally making more than 10 times the money that Mike Muscala is. Like, not even a question. But on the Nets players, can't believe we're down to 10 minutes here. Cam Johnson, I'd kind of unload 2 first-round picks for and then pay him in the offseason. I mean, because then you kind of have the option between him and Grant. Pay both, Wick, get out the pocketbook. Like, let's let this thing ride. Cam Johnson as your backup wing would be absurd. He is really, really good. I think it probably costs too much. Can you get Royce O'Neal, though, for a few second-round picks?
Potentially, yes. So I'm just reacting to another trade. Happened where
Gary Payton back to the Warriors.
Back to the Warriors. They got
for 5 second-round picks. The magic number.
The price
5 more second-round picks. How has there been 3 trades for 5 second-round picks today?
At least.
Yeah, a lot of picks changing hands. How many second-round picks do we need to give up to get Royce O'Neal or to get Cam Johnson? Like, surely they're the ticket of the day, right? Second round picks. I think we've traded away a few, unfortunately, in the last few years. I think we're actually less packed with or stacked rather with second round picks than a lot of other teams. Maybe now's the time to offer up a first. Hey, all these seconds are flying around. Guess what? Here's a first. Here's another first. Let's get Cam Johnson on the squad. Let's go.
Man, Gary Payton would have been another guy that would have been nice for the Celtics as far as, just to supplement, the Jays on the back end, especially if JB is going to be out for a little bit here. That would have been actually a nice pickup. But I mean, I don't know, 5 second rounds, man. 5. So that's the going price today.
Yeah. So the Warriors, instead of just paying him a 3-year, $8 million contract, have now paid 5 second round picks on top of paying whatever he's making for the next 3 years as well, because of how amazing. Look, he's really good, and he was an issue for the Celtics in the finals. Man, the Warriors, even with this Steph injury, I just don't see anyone in the Western Conference really like the Western standings. I just don't see anyone really pulling away to the point where they can't get back in the mix. Like, Steph's going to miss 2, 3, or 4 weeks. All-Star breaks in the middle of that. They're going to be able to hang on and just like beat the Nuggets in the round 1 or something crazy, and then it's going to be like game on for them to make it back to the finals. And to bring in Gary Payton, he was one of their most important players in that finals, getting into the Jays. Don't like that. That honestly might be the thing that hurts me the most, more than Crowder and more than Jalen McDaniels. Like, that doesn't swing the odd. Like, if you're making odds for the series, I think that actually is impactful versus Jalen McDaniels.
Yeah, GP is a big road defense guy. We saw it in the finals, right? And I guess my immediate reaction is I'm not particularly worried. Again, talking from the Celtics perspective, because they've got a lot of obstacles to jump through before we potentially see them again in the finals, as do we. Mm-hmm. But that's a good move, even from a culture standpoint, from the Warriors to bring that guy back in. There's obviously been a gaping void in the construct, the makeup of their team since the beginning of the season. So to bring back, old mate Gary Payton II is probably a good move on their part, especially as they're shipping out Wiseman. But they continue to build a salary base that's going to output a massive luxury tax bill. But not our problem again. Guys, 7 minutes until the deadline. It's approaching. I'm expecting fireworks. We've got some people in the chat here. We've got a nice little group going on here. Let us know what you think's going to happen. We're going to see some Brad Stevens triggered fireworks sometime in the next 6.5 minutes. Are we going to see nothing? I certainly hope it's the former, because here we are live streaming, waiting for something to happen.
It's usually like 9 minutes. There's another 3 to 4 minutes after the deadline.
Yeah, exactly. A few things continue to roll in. And I mean, I'm still waiting on the OG news. I feel like that's the news.
I can't believe we've got nothing on that.
Because I feel like within that, there might be I think OG is obviously out to play for the Celtics, but I think that once again, I mean, I would expect so, but I don't know. Maybe like you said, to your point, no one else has second rounders left. We got a couple firsts left. Maybe we throw some firsts in the mix and get ourselves involved. But, I think from that, if there's a team that's making a move, maybe that leads to another buyout candidate that could be out there, for the Celtics. So I don't know. I mean, that feels like, there was, this is maybe an hour or two ago, but there was some rumblings that there was some Levine and Knicks talk going on. So I mean, there still is a couple of big chips. Of course, we can't have a trade deadline without talking about John Collins, and then John Collins not getting moved.
I cannot believe John Collins. But I understand it. He makes a lot of money, and he's okay. Like, I don't really know what he does on a contender. Like, what is he your 4? He's an okay defender, okay shooter, roll man. Like, is that what we've got? Atlanta? Of course he is. Oh man, this purgatory of the East. The Knicks, hilarious, right? Spoon dog.
Hey, feed me more trades. I need more trades.
Yeah, we got nothing. I'm sorry. I'm at a lull. Right. 5 minutes to go into the deadline.
We're waiting for the buzzer beaters.
This is perfect. PJ Washington's going to get traded to us.
I've been texting Brad. He's working on it, man. PJ's coming.
I'm in the office.
Don't worry.
He just walked by a moment ago. I was trying to wave him down, but he's just looking at his phone. Didn't want to pay me any mind. Spoony, 4.5 minutes to go. What's going to happen?
What do we want?
Who has John Collins moved yet?
Nope.
Oh no, that's
Jake Fisher
right there. Look at that. Man, what is up? But like, John Collins is good, right? I'm not crazy.
Is he good?
He's not bad, right?
He's the perfect guy that's like, he's definitely not bad,
right?
But he's also not as good as probably what Atlanta wants to get back from somebody.
Exactly, yeah.
And so you're just left in this weird negotiation of like, no, that's too little, and then that's too much to get. So we've just been doing this tango for 2.5 years now, or whatever it is.
I can't. Him and Miles Turner are just perpetually in trade talks. Although Turner this year has finally played well enough. The Indies like, screw it, we'll just keep him.
Dude, Fongo's in the chat got me good. He's like, why the hell are we trading for a Cantor again? And I was like, no, please,
never do that. First of all, it's freedom.
Enos Freedom. He had the tweet of the night on the Lakers game. By the way, you saw his tweet. I'm guessing, right? 38,000 points. 0 morals, 0 whatever.
My God.
And one time bowing down to China. And I was like, yes, this is why we have Twitter.
I thought you meant Fungo's tweet, but I thought
Enos Freedom's. Yeah. He's the best.
Destroyed him.
Yeah. PJ Washington, he's coming in. We got, who else we got? Jayshawn Tate still available.
Show us your date, Tate. That's what I want to see.
Show us your date, Tate. Like, not a trade candidate, but the NBL had their awards night, the Gazies this week. Xavier Cook's MVP, 6'6" wing, just slashing, scoring forward. Bring him over. That's obviously not going to happen today, but yeah, keep an eye on that, big dog.
Okay, yeah, all right, I like it. I will be balls deep in some YouTube highlights after the stream is over of that guy. OG. It's hard to put together an OG trade in the middle of the season like this with so many moving parts. And I thought them getting Pirtle was them like, we're keeping everybody and we're going to try to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because that.
Yeah, I don't understand that move. That move, that to me has still been, it's been kind of lost with all the moves that have happened, but that move did not make any sense to me.
That's what is going on in Toronto situation.
Yeah.
What was that? Sort of the precursor to the Durant move, and it looked like there was something going on there because it's a weird, like sideways move, lateral move to make. I don't understand how.
And they gave up a real pick. They gave up a very likely first round pick for him. And as I follow, or we've had him on our show a couple of times. This guy is Fandiar Barahini, works for I forget the outlet that he works for. But he like came on. He's like, all right, I can't explain this over tweets, so I need to send a video because I don't get what's happening right now because it's basically a gamble that you're going to be good next year, but in order to pay Pirtle, you got to trade probably some of the guys that you would think you would need to be good next year, and then you gave up a first round pick. So that to me is still the most confusing, which is why I'm still waiting on whether it's OG or at least Gary Trent Jr. or somebody from the Raptors. There has to be another Raptors move to try to make that make sense.
Well, they've been probably one of the biggest surprises to me as far as performance. I thought they were going to be like solid, like in the Knicks range this year, above 500, 6-7 seed range. Them and the Clippers are the example of why you need legitimate guards and legitimate big men, like the Vision 6-9 thing that the Raptors were trying to do. That's why they brought in Pirtle, because they don't have a big man that's actually good. So maybe it's like, okay, we bring in Pirtle. We actually have a big man that's not 6'7" that can play rim defense and play drop coverage like at a pretty high level. We keep these guys together. They believe in their core. They re-sign, Freddie VanVleet. I'm shocked that they've done nothing. We're at 7 a.m. or 3 p.m.
Just hit it 7 a.m. on the dot, 3 p.m. Boston
Surely
time. Spoonie, if you're Brad Stevens, you're picking up the phone, ideally 30 seconds ago. What's your last-ditch effort? What call are you making?
I'm calling Charlotte, and I'm saying, Charlotte, what's it going to take to get Washington, 6'10", shoot for fun, Like, give me that, dude. But I think it seems like Brad was like, I want another big man who can shoot. Went and got him immediately, and then was like, okay, we'll pick up the phone if somebody calls, but we feel pretty comfortable with our team. And I understand it. Like, dude, you look at Pritchard last night coming in, barely played the entire game, and then he comes in the crunch time and plays
locked up in
well.
B, dog.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you're a championship team, like it's a pretty sizable risk analysis you have to go through if you're making a trade of a guy that actually plays. Even though Pritchard's not a key rotation piece, he's a guy that can we've seen him win a playoff game for us, right? So
Nets game 2 in the building for that one.
You don't know what the hell PJ Washington's going to do in the playoffs, or McDaniels or somebody like that. Like, maybe they just don't get guarded and they clang a bunch of threes and they're terrible and they lose you a playoff game. So it's scary to make a trade when you're the odds-on favorite for the championship. So I get it. You go get a veteran guy who can shoot and is big. That could be worse.
Yeah, we've talked about it ad nauseum, but the chemistry is something that, we have to approach it almost scientifically, like little measurements here and there. Like, don't mess with the chemical balance all that much. And so I think as we get well and truly over the deadline now and see no new announcements, that's what I'm already selling myself on. It's like, this is the right move.
Well, I'm like, this is mostly what it's like to be addicted to heroin and cocaine at the same time. I'm like, it's coming. Because I'm like, there hasn't been a tweet that says, quiet, enter the deadline. That's it for today from Shams, Woj, or Fisher or someone like that. So I'm holding out just a little bit of hope. I just need one little taste.
There's always one trade that comes in right on the deadline and gets reported like 5 minutes.
It's gonna be the equivalent of like Dwayne Dedman getting traded again or something. And we're gonna be like, oh my God, there's movement.
That's all right. One more hit. That's all I need.
Give me some, please.
Now it's gonna be about
this is from a few years ago.
Good Lord.
I'll be right back.
I just saw here from Adam Himmelsbach, per source, the Celtics are done for the day. Okay. So it looks like Muscala is kind of the one and only move for now. But like we said, I think there's probably going to be some buyout movement here. But fellas, I got a dip, but I appreciate you guys letting me hop on here, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
This was fun. Glad, Ben, it was perfect timing when you had to go put your child to bed that I could be here to come hang out for a bit. So glad that all worked out. But I'll be still tuning in here on my laptop on the side, guys. Take care.
For sure.
No worries. Appreciate it, Will. Thanks for coming on. And if you're not already, go and subscribe to the Green with MV podcast on the
Yep.
Celtics blog feed, which conveniently, if you subscribe to, you're also subscribing to us. But Will and Greg, they do a fantastic job on that feed that we share.
And
So
like
go and shout out
the
those guys.
stream, and then comments afterwards. Subscribe because we will beat the algorithm, the boss that is unbeatable. We will win eventually.
Yeah, there's a few of you here. So while you're here, yeah, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Help us out with the algorithm. I suppose let's just run the Muscala highlights again, right? That's our guy.
Run the tape!
Run
The Moose
tape.
Dog!
Oh, man, there we go. New addition. I think, some shooting, some size, some lack of Justin Jackson. There's a lot
look
to
at
be
that.
thankful for here as we see some insane athletic feats by Mike Muscala here. This guy is really going to cook for the Celtics. So
I mean,
that's,
when you
go ahead.
when you think about it, it's really a Gallinari replacement. Like Brad was like, we saw a vision for Gallinari, we lost him. They're literally, if you took away the names and you look at this blurry footage, and you like didn't know what jerseys they were in, pretty similar dimensions. Gallinari's got a little more thickness to him. That Italian food really like loading up that core, that posterior
carbs.
chain. Exactly. What nationality is the Moose Dog?
Yeah, we got to start doing our research.
He is American. Wow. That's happened a lot to
Surely,
me this year.
I'm thinking Eastern European descent.
That's happened to me so many times this year. I thought Concha on the Grizzlies was not American. Georges Niang is apparently from Boston. Max Strus, also American. I thought all these dudes were like American, which makes sense why I haven't seen them in Eurobasket. But okay, we'll accept American, I guess. We got a few of those.
Yeah, he's 31 years old. He went to high school in Roseville, Minnesota. He's been in the league since 2013, so well and truly a vet. He's obviously played with Al Horford before on the Hawks, I believe, and then more recently in OKC. He's also played for the Lakers, the Sixers, so he'll have some inside intel there, and a bit of a stint in the G League between 2014 and 2017. So he's been all over the place, but the man can shoot. So he's found himself back in the league, and now he's found himself the centerpiece of trade relevance, ending up on the best team in the league, the Boston Celtics. So something to get very excited about.
I really like this because, look, if we know one thing, we know that Brad's a wizard and a genius. To have that plan for Gallinari, lose him, and bring in a replacement like that, I'm excited to see what the realized vision of the Gallinari thing is because, Muscala is so similar. And again, add this to the list of players that Brad has traded for that have another year or another couple of years on their list with the team option. You go into the offseason and now you have another guy on $3.5 million that you can package together for another move, or if, Gallinari's ACL recovery doesn't go super well, you've got that replacement. I love what he's doing. Like 2 second-round picks coming in what feels like under the market relative to the rest of the NBA, like Thomas Bryant going for 3 second-round picks. You can't tell me that Thomas Bryant's that much more valuable than Mike Muscala. Got him for a single less second-round pick, which we're seeing. No one knows the exact value, but we know that second-round picks do have value. So anytime you can extract a little extra value, it's perfect. Like to get Horford, Brogdon, Derek White, all for a single first-round pick. Again, I've spoken about this. Do you want those 3 guys for 3 first-round picks, or do you want DeJounte Murray for 3 first-round picks? Like, it's not even a question about about what you want. And like Brad is just nailing the asset management side of this. I don't know. I gotta find out who Brad's financial advisor is, or Brad probably does it himself.
I would say so.
Yeah, he probably does it himself and probably nailing it.
I'm sure he rejects all outside advice and is just completely mastering it himself after years of trying to get over that hump, looking from the sidelines, literally as a coach, finally, getting at the helm of the team and being able to push the buttons himself. The man clearly knows what he's doing, and it's a sight to behold. So very excited to have Brad on board behind the wheel there. So I guess just to recap the day as I'm scrolling through like the Reddit summary of trades, I suppose obviously the big one, Muscala, we've talked about it. What else is standing out to you? And we've touched on a few as part of this live stream. I'm going to chop this down into a much shorter podcast for the Celtics blog feed. So we'll include this segment. What stands out to you, Jake, as far as other trades that have happened across the league, particularly in our division and conference today?
Right. Well, I mean, I feel like we want to wait for Spoon to do the Kevin Durant chat, but that's clearly the biggest one. Like the fact that the Nets, not obviously the Durant impacting the Western Conference and going to the Suns is a big deal, but the fact that the Nets are just gone now, like the fact that they were a 2 seed literally a month ago, the hottest team in the NBA, finally stringing together a consistent play, and realizing what the Kyrie Kevin Durant pairing could look like, looking like legitimately dangerous, a team that could beat. Yeah, I have linked it in the private chat if we want to close it. The podcast with the Muscala rap here, but I think that's got to be the biggest difference to the Eastern Conference landscape. Like I was excited to see what the Nets looked like with Durant and all those role players. Like I think that perfect Spoonie's back just in time.
Sorry.
Run the plays.
I am working technically right now.
That. Just talking about Durant and how the Nets are now just don't have Durant or Kyrie Irving and are no longer a contender in the Eastern Conference and are rebuilding.
Isn't it bizarre the package they got for Kyrie signaled to me that they wanted to build around Durant? I kind of thought that team with Durant would be sneaky pretty good, dude. Like they don't have anybody.
He just wanted out of there.
Yeah, but that's crazy, man. Like, are the Suns that much better? I guess if Booker's healthy, they are, but that's a weird team to me. That is a very thin team, the Suns.
It is, but CP running the show and playmaking for Booker and Durant is pretty naughty as far as offensively goes.
He's 37 though, man.
I know, but he's gonna just snake some pick and roll. Like honestly, like his load's gonna be pretty light, I would think. And and with the West, I just don't see like a true like powerhouse. And you just have Booker and Durant as like your firepower. That's like a legit version of the Kyrie Durant thing to me. Like Booker's better than Kyrie, definitely, in my opinion. Yeah, no question. And Aiden's a solid big man. So I think that the West, like if you're a Nuggets fan, I'd be like, that's annoying. Like, and as a Celtics fan, no KD, no Jokic, no LeBron, no SGA, no Luka. Like we're down to Giannis and Embiid, and
we own Embiid.
Yeah,
we own Embiid.
Like he may as well be Mike Muscala, honestly.
yeah, he's gonna get Muscala'd.
Yes.
Who did the Nuggets get for Bones again? I'm sorry, dude. I've been super busy with work, so I'm like behind.
Kennard. That's what he went to the Grizzlies. It's a good question, Spoons. It's a good question.
Second round picks. So according, I can bring it up on the.
So they got worse.
Well, he's not really playing though.
Where is it? Bones Highland for two second round picks. That's it.
Maybe
more information will emerge, but they must have just really wanted to get rid of him. And like to be fair, I don't know. We watched Game 2 of the Denver Cup, Celtics versus Denver, and Bones Highland, like he was all over the place. He was like
dominated.
Terry Rozier. He dominated in certain parts of the game. In others, he dominated with his silliness. I want to say, like he's a real roller coaster from a production standpoint. So I don't know. I can kind of see them wanting to move on from him as far as like if their focus is winning a championship this year, and this guy is just like a complete, like you don't know what to expect on a night in, night out basis. Sure, move on, but you're getting nothing back. He probably, in my opinion, holds more value than 2 second round picks.
That's surprising. And all of the podcast, I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty low on Bones as like a legit playoff contributor. And listening to various pods, I was kind of surprised at how much people liked Bones. So to me, I guess I thought they would get more just based on what people were saying about him. But for me, it's like, okay, you're not a super efficient microwave scorer who kind of just doesn't pass the ball and can't defend a traffic cone. So like, what's your playoff outlook? Don't really see it. So,
but you kind of need those guys like who can get hot for 4 minutes. You know what I mean? Like Jokic is going to have to sit 8 minutes a game in the playoffs, right? Like 1 or 2 of those games a series, Bones is going to be super hot and make like 3 threes in 4 minutes. And I feel like that's got some value. I'm with you. Like, is he worth up first? Probably not. But why not just keep him at that point? If that's the best offer on the table is 2 seconds and really nothing else to replace him, like you're just getting worse. Well, like it feels like every team in the West got better today, man. Like the West went absolutely ham on the trade deadline. I mean, everybody went west except for the Nuggets, who got worse. So I would be upset if I was a Nuggets fan at this point.
I have a very good friend who is a Nuggets fan, and as soon as the trade went down yesterday, I was in his ear. Oh man, you are no longer the best team in the West, not by far. You're in big trouble with Durant heading over to the Suns, and now they've just got rid of Bones Highland for second-round picks, which I guess there's some hubris there from the Nuggets perspective. You know, we got Nikola Jokic with the second-round pick. He's a soon-to-be MVP. Second-round picks are everything. We've got 2 of those from Bones. Like, we're good, but like you're not good. And now Kevin Durant has teamed up with I guess the latest iteration of a super team over there in the West. So very exciting, and particularly for us because we've just chopped off one Eastern Conference foe. Like the Nets have got an exciting squad. I mean, but the one takeaway we talked about before the deadline, they've got a bevy of forwards there, one of which we were hoping to acquire before the deadline. Defensively on the Jays, that could be a problem, but I don't really see that as a massive playoff obstacle.
They have no one that can score now. It's like Mikal Bridges is their leading scorer. And even TJ Warren's gone to the Suns, so we forgot. Thanks for mentioning that, Z Gamer in the chat. They are out of it. It's pretty wild. Again, now this makes the 1 seed pretty. I don't know. After last night, I'm even less worried about the 1 seed than before, just because like I think the Bucks are actually going to push for the 1 seed, whereas Philly, I don't actually see being good enough to get there. And so if we end up getting Philly in round 2, I'm like, whatever.
You know what the best news of the day is?
Please.
Miami didn't get anybody.
No one,
They got nobody. They didn't get PJ. They didn't get McDaniels. They didn't get Crowder. They got rid of... Well, the one upside is they got rid of Dedmon, who we destroy Dedmon and all the minutes he plays. But I was worried. Me and Z Gamer actually have talked a lot about, like, are you worried about if Miami can find a way to get Washington or Jay Crowder or something? Like, that's all of a sudden a pretty scary team, and they got nobody. Moose would have been great for them too, dude. Like, I'm glad we snuck him out of it. You know, Riley was calling everybody.
When do we get the freaking memes about Pat Riley? Like
I know,
and Greeny's all over this. Greeny's all over this. Like Pat Riley hasn't made a good trade in like however, and every important player that's rumored to be traded, it's like the Heat have interest. Like talks intensifying. It's like nothing. Just sitting up there in his Godfather room, phone just dead silent. No one wants Max Strus or Duncan Robinson, dude.
Probably not even working the phone at this point. He's getting a little old there. It's like, sorry, what's my password? How do I unlock my phone?
Freaking, I don't know what you call the phone. Well, you got to do the numbers that spin in a circle. Yeah. Cavs didn't get anyone as well.
Yeah.
That's
good. Now we're talking. So we're better off. We're better off as a result of today. We got Muscala, no massive upgrades. You know, we talked about McDaniels and Crowder coming into the Sixers and the Bucks. You know, a little bit concerning. One of the things we talked about in our Are We Worried segment prior to the deadline was our main rivals bolstering their wing defense. They've done that, but ultimately the conclusion there was like neither of those two guys are really like, they're not notable Jays stoppers. They help a little bit, but it's not going to like turn the tides of a series at all. So would you both say you're pretty comfortable with where we're at post deadline now, as far as still being the clear number 1, or at least there with the Bucks?
How do you feel about McDaniel's spoons? I feel like that's probably, from what I'm seeing on Twitter, there's some wide, the spectrum of opinions on how much Jalen McDaniels is going to help. Because I'm like, I think he's fine. I don't think it's a needle mover.
People think Jalen McDaniels' defense is as good as his brothers for some reason, just because they're brothers. It's not, dude. Tatum roasted McDaniels last time. He roasts McDaniels every time we play Charlotte. And he's good. He's a solid defensive player. He's shooting 32% from 3 on a team where he can shoot as much as he wants with absolutely no pressure, and he gets to touch the ball. like I think he's gonna look like Tybal, where it's like, okay, slightly above average defense, and like he is not gonna get guarded in the playoffs. Like if you replace Grant Williams for him last year in Game 7 against the Bucks, we lose that game because McDaniels just does not have it in him to take 18 threes and make 7 of them. He's just not that type of offensive player, dude. I thought he was a cool little buy low candidate when we talked about him like in December, but the way the narrative switched and people were talking about him like he's some game changer, like, then why isn't Charlotte good? If they have like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not very good. That's a beautiful Pat Riley meme we've got up here.
Is he awake?
Nope.
No.
Absolutely.
That was kind of my take as well, Spoonie. Like, I actually think defensively, Thibault's much better than McDaniels. So you lose. From what I saw on Twitter, this is a tax move for Philly. Like they're under the luxury tax. And I was saying before, I listened to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast last night, and there's never been a better Schadenfreude moment. I really appreciated them. They did a fantastic job. I was just feeling me with the warm fuzzies. They need a backup big dude.
Yeah.
Like, that was by far their biggest need. You know who could have helped? Mike Muscala.
Yeah.
You know who could have helped? Mike Muscala.
Dude, Harden, Muscala, pick and pops would actually be kind of scary, dude.
Yeah. They have nothing. And Embiid cannot play high 40 minutes deep into the playoffs. I do not buy it for a second. You cannot trust him. Like, even last night, it's like he's just heavy. Obviously, he's the heaviest man alive, potentially. But like, good luck at playing against the Celtics when they're locked in the playoffs for a 7-game series. Like, they'll grind you to dust. So yeah, the fact that they don't have anyone to like soak up minutes, Montrezl Harrell as your backup center against the Celtics, enjoy that while Tatum's playing 44 minutes.
So just to start to wrap up here, the trade deadline as well and truly passed by 20 minutes now. We know what we've got.
Wow, I can't believe nothing came through.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, so I guess now, firstly, let's just do a quick round the room on the Sixers game yesterday, just very quickly, and then we should quickly talk about buyout candidates, and then we're gonna wrap up here with the Muscala wrap because we're getting a few requests in the chat on the Sixers game. My takeaway, I shared it in our Slack last night, was just the team defense on Joel Embiid. It felt like everyone was just so clear on the scouting report on how to double team Joel Embiid, when to defend him. And we talked about prior to the game, the absence of Marcus Smart, because he's like the king of those well-timed double teams on Embiid. That could be problematic. But he like clearly, opened up Skillshare, recorded his thoughts, put it on the platform, sent the link to everyone on the team, and they all just sort of imbibed that that knowledge from Marcus Smart. I thought that the defensive timing on those doubles was just impeccable, and Embiid never really, found his rhythm at any point, which is the key to the game. It helped that we hit a few threes for the first time in a while as well. But just a masterclass on defending Joel Embiid.
They were wide open. The Phillies' defense is awful. The overhelping, and that's what Michael Levin was like just dying about. It's like the overhelping and the double teams when you don't need to double team. Like, how the only reason House is on the court is to shoot threes, and there's like not even contesting his shot. It's like just wide open. He's back. The big dog, house money, house dog.
Yeah, 2 in a row, man.
2 in a row. And like the one he had where he caught it facing the Philly bench, spun, shot, splash. That was the moment. I was like, he's back. Apology to Grant Williams, Gilbert Williams, the Williams family for entertaining the idea of trading Grant. The Grant Williams that we saw last night is the reason why Brad Stevens is running the Boston Celtics. And I'm not. Because Grant Williams had has had a 6-week slump, and he was fantastic last night. Quick trigger threes, the playmaking out of the short roll, like the one-armed overhead whip passes to shooters out of the short roll were beautiful. The defense on Joel Embiid, add that to the list of superstars that Grant Williams can defend at a high level. He was the MVP, mea culpa. I'll send him all the proceeds from this episode to Grant Williams' foundation of choice.
dozens
the
of cents that we
record.
can send his way.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us were really on the trade Grant train. Like some people on Twitter were like, just go get anybody for Grant Williams because he sucks.
I was
now.
close.
Yeah.
I was like the Olynyk
Really?
trade. Yeah, I remember. I was
I'm
like
scrubbing
Olynyk.
the internet of all of our takes on that right now. So
Oh,
trying to
dude,
find them, they don't exist.
Mine will stand the test of time. I said, if it's for somebody like OG, go for it. But otherwise, just keep Grant. But I've not had a chance to watch the game yet. So I'm not going to have any particularly insightful takeaways from it.
You were watching the Mountaineers get that dub.
That's right, dude. That was a crazy game. It was an awesome game. You should go check out the highlights. But they have a very hateable guy on Iowa State named Grill, and he looks like country Grayson Allen with a mohawk. missed the game-winning layup, so that was
amazing.
excellent. Yeah, but I just think, like, if you're a Philly fan, and one of my very good friends is a Sixers fan, like, and he feels basically helpless against the Celtics at this point. It's almost like we're taunting them. Like, we just won't even start. We'll start Blake Griffin at center and see what happens, Joel. And they didn't even break 100 with Blake Griffin starting at center.
There's a great Blake quote after the game. They're like,
about Doc?
About Doc. And like, he's like, that was the game plan. I thought maybe after I made the first couple, they'd like contested, but I don't know.
Doc didn't make any adjustments. And yeah, that's kind of a theme or something like that. Like,
No
that's why
disrespect.
Doc is not a good coach for the playoffs, man. He's really not. So it's a very encouraging win. I feels kind of like we might be big time capital B back a little bit, 3 in a row in a bunch of different ways. So
is it 3 in a row? No, we lost to the Suns, dude. Didn't we?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it's disgusting loss.
That's right. Yeah,
tomorrow.
3 of 4.
Me and Ben are gonna get together to watch that game, so we're definitely losing.
Oh yeah, damn.
Yeah.
Now we're breaking the curse.
Yeah.
Breaking the curse.
We picked the right team, I think, to try and break the curse, the Ben Jake curse. And look, if anyone's in Sydney, in the Darling Harbour area tomorrow at around 11:30, let us know on Twitter, and we'll meet up and watch the game with you. Guys, we've got to shift quickly to the buyout market before we wrap up here. Just a few minutes on the buyout market. Spoonie, what names are starting to sort of emerge in your mind? Is Jayshawn Tate likely to be bought out by the Rockets so that he could be acquirable, or who's coming to mind for you?
I don't think Tate will get bought out. I don't really understand Houston's a mess. So maybe they think, like, 27-year-old guy who actually plays defense and cares. We want to keep him around our young stars who, don't play defense. So I don't see Tate getting bought out. He doesn't make a lot of money unless they really want to do him a solid and let him go somewhere. But I feel like if they were interested in getting rid of him, one of these deals for 3 years seconds or something like that would have meant Tate went. So I'm locked in on Terrence Ross. I think he's going to get bought out. I think they're finally going to say, you know what, hey man, you've been a good steward of the club. We love you, Terrence. Go find a contender to latch onto. And I think we still have wing minutes, man. We do. We didn't get a wing, so those minutes.
Especially with the Jalen broken face situation.
Yeah, there's 18 minutes a game there for a decent-sized wing who can shoot it, and that's Terrence Ross. So that's the guy, if I had to pick, I think will get bought out, that we got a really good chance to get, and that can help.
Yeah. On the buyout, I just Twitter searched buyout. The Celtics have their 3.2 million DPE that they can offer more, as the Suns have their taxpayer mid-level that they didn't use, so they can probably be the highest bidder in the buyout market. Just something to keep
Pistons too.
Yeah, but what are they going to do with their buyout?
Who's going to go there? Well, they have a 5.9. They have a $5.9 million DPE because of Cade.
Right. I guess if someone wants to get paid $6 million instead of $2 million, that's why they would do it, Jake. Which is pretty fair. So what about Pat Bev? I don't know. I know people hate him, but like, he's like solid enough for play defense and shoot threes at like 34%. And like kind of a dog. So I think
he's
he would
a dog for sure, 100%.
Like he would be solid for the Celtics, like for what we need from him. Like he was pretty helpful with making it. Like he was a solid piece for helping the Timberwolves make the playoffs last season, and was as bad as the Lakers were. He was one of their better players. It speaks to how bad their roster was. But like as far as your 10th man goes, that's a guy I don't hate. Even though I like legitimately, like he hurts my body when I see him pop up on screens in my life. But yeah.
we'd love him after the first quarter of
Yeah.
him playing and like ripping a dude's shorts off or something like that. So, you know what I mean? Like, but I just feel like we've got guard depth, especially Pritchard didn't go. If Pritchard got traded for a wing, I would be all in on Pat Bev, but it just feels like we need a bigger body, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, Isaac in the comments here mentions Bryn Forbes, and yeah, I just don't think guard depth, guard shooting is an issue for us. We need another wing, a guy whose shooting slumps don't matter like Sam Hauser's do, who can come out and actually have a defensive impact in lieu of one of the Jays being out there. Maybe if we're lucky, act as some of that connective tissue that we're fortunate enough to have with guys like Derek White that Sam Hauser doesn't offer us. And now, like we mentioned, Spoonie, the broken face issue for Jaylen Brown. Like that's a glaring hole that we need to address. But unfortunately, the buyout market does seem to be thin on those guys. We'll start to see some buyouts.
Danny Green.
Yeah, like not really. Like he's very old and very slow.
Literally coming off an ACL.
Yeah, so we'll see. Any final parting thoughts, guys? We're going to wrap this up. We've been going for 90 minutes. I'm going to cut it down into hopefully a 45-minute pod. Anything you want to add to try and sneak on to the end of the actual podcast here before we wrap up?
All hail Brad. It's genius hitting singles, baby.
Yeah, I'll give that Muscala trade like a solid B+, man.
Yeah.
The two useless firsts. One's a 2029, I think I saw. Like that doesn't even that's not real.
I said to Ben, dude, he's kind of like whatever Brad was envisioning for Gallinari, right? So it's gonna be cool to see what that actually looks like.
And Gallo remains on the team as well.
Yeah.
We thought, for sure he'd get moved. There was a lot of talk, I guess, from people closer to the team, which is easy to achieve above us. He'd be kept around, and that was absolutely the case. So we're going to see him back in green potentially next year. He does have that player option. So unless he gets traded in the offseason, which, if he wasn't traded now, seems like unlikely that he would be traded in the offseason, we're going to see some Italian Galleon Stallion on the Celtics. So it's exciting to see. We're going to wrap up the show here with the Mike Muscala rap. People in the chat have been calling for it all morning, in our case, all evening there in the US. I've never seen or heard it, so this is going to be a first. And we're going to wrap up. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks everyone who joined us in the live stream. We had 40-something people at one point, which is fantastic. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Check out the Celtics blog podcast feed. Guys, thanks very much. We'll see you soon.
Call me Mike Jaws of the best kept secret. Coming from Atlanta where the Hawks stay screeching. I got 3 goals and I ain't talking about a hat trick. 1, win the championship. 2, make a smash it. 3, have a baby with my lady, then some grandkids. These other rappers shaky Charles backswing. Trying to find the recipe, I call him plankton. The flow so appealing, best rapper in the league. Aw man, what a feeling. Showing y'all I can spit. What up, Shaq, Charles, Ernie, Kenny, the Jet Smith?